Welcome to week 3 of the Creatine Show. It's my little corner of the internet where I like to hop on every week for about 20 minutes and share some of the top topics that have been on my mind this week. My name is Rachel Jennings. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Generize, a creatine 2.0 company that I run together with my dad, who's been around in the creatine space for more than 30 years. I can jump into this in more detail in a different video on a different week. But my dad was the first person to commercialize creatine monohydrate as an effervescent tablet at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. And we're still in this game. And I don't have Instagram, Facebook, anything else. I use LinkedIn if you follow me over there. Nice to see you. And I decided that this is the year that I would like to share my thoughts during the week about creatine on YouTube. The Creatine Show didn't exist, so I thought the handle is for me, and I'll fill that gap in the content algorithm for you. So let's kick things off with a shopping experience that I had on Monday. I went into town with my husband and we were in Holland and Barrett, a shop that he goes to more often than me, and he was looking for some shampoo, and I decided to go and have a look at the creatines that are on offer. I do have to admit that I don't often typically buy my own creatine in store. Just as an industry insider, I'm able to either get free samples, our own product from other companies, PR type things. So yeah, and I also really like a super generic creatine from the local supermarket here in Belgium. I was really surprised about what's on offer in Holland and Barrett. So I was looking at this through the lens of people that find out about creatine maybe for the first time on social media. They see a reel, they come across a carousel about a study that really speaks to them, and then they decide to go into Holland and Barrett and buy their first creatine. I was seeing really high prices. I was seeing really non-engaging branding and packaging. And I was also seeing formats that do not really speak joy and vitality to me. So specifically, and this is going to be in euros, I came across a 30-day supply of capsules for 48 euros, of which they were recommending to get a 5-gram daily dose of creatine, you would have to take 6 to 8 capsules, which were large 00 size capsules. And I am really interested in this because from my insider perspective in the industry, we're so excited about the research, we're so excited about the benefits, we're so focused on improving stability, we're so focused on purity and safety and getting all of those COAs and parts per million of certain chemicals as low as possible. Is there then a huge disconnect when consumers are walking into the store and they feel excited too, maybe after what they saw online from an influencer that they know and trust and aspire to be more like? But then you're looking at a borderline 50 euro investment that doesn't look particularly beautiful, and you need to stand in the kitchen swallowing back 6 to 8 large capsules every day. I'd love to understand who these products are targeting. I'd love to understand also how well people are responding to the option of being able to buy something like that. And so I understand, of course, price is reflective of probably the quality of the product there, also maybe the certification that it has as well. I didn't buy it. I came home and then I enjoyed my much lower cost own creatine monohydrate that I've been taking for the last couple of months when I'm not enjoying our own upcoming launches that we have as samples here in the office. So does the high price tag make a first time buyer think it's better or higher quality, or does it just keep the barrier to entry too low for the people who need it the most? You know, 50 euros is quite a lot these days. If you're a young teenager, if you're working out, if you're focused on your fitness. I do know that creatine used to be really expensive. Even in America in the 90s, it was about $100 for a month's supply, which is expensive. And maybe it's comparable to what it was back then. But I was just really underwhelmed. I know there are some amazing creatine brands visually and also at a competitive price, maybe in stick sachets that are easy to carry with you and add into a coffee or a juice throughout the day. But these €50 capsules were just really underwhelming to me. And let me know what you think. I don't think that a tub with capsules at a high price is really what's going to convince somebody in Holland and Barrett to really invest and buy creatine, because it's representing a medical moment, not a ritual, not something enjoyable, not something particularly associated with food and nutrition, perhaps more so something to keep with your kind of medicine cabinet. So yeah, I don't know if I would have been convinced, to be quite honest. So I think that's why a lot of people are also turning to these more trendy brands that are D2C online, TikTok shop, straight from the Kardashians, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, and why the gummy format still reigns supreme, whether we in the industry know about some of the stability questions and what have you. Customers are being drawn to cute things, fun things, tasty stuff at a good price. So we really need to make sure that we're able to deliver on purity and quality and benefits when people are looking for things like that. So I would have probably passed on it if I was a first-time buyer, to be quite honest. It was not very appealing, which is probably a shame. The second thing this week is that we had an interesting question come in. Somebody asked us, if people start supplementing creatine, will our bodies actually stop producing creatine, bodily creatine? So as you may know, our bodies produce about a gram of creatine on their own on a daily basis. That's just a natural biological process. And the question here is interesting and something that I've personally never really thought about before, which is if you then start supplementing and adding an additional 3 to 5 or plus grams of creatine monohydrate into your daily supplement stack, will your body respond to that? Will your body become dependent on it? Will your body stop producing natural creatine? Will you stop absorbing it from your food if you are a fish and a meat eater? Really interesting question. This came from a student via Donald Hooton, who I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. And the short answer is no. But the science of how your body rebounds is actually fascinating. And I wanted to share a little bit more of that with you guys. So taking creatine does not permanently suppress your natural production, but your body does have a feedback loop. And this is kind of where it gets quite interesting. When you supplement and take additional creatine, whether it's an expensive capsule or a powder or a gummy, the liver and the kidneys basically say, we're good for now. And they temporarily can slow down. So this is totally, again, clarifying that creatine is not acting like a steroid in the body, because steroids can actually shut down your natural hormones for months and even for years at a time. But creatine production returns to a baseline within weeks of stopping. So your body doesn't forget how to make creatine, and you are not disturbing your natural creatine synthesization process in the body or the absorption of it from your food. Supplementing is really actually crucial as well if you're an athlete who might have a period where you are working really, really hard, but then maybe you also have an off break from your season. It's okay to take a break from creatine, and then your body will go just back to its baseline, which, as I mentioned last week, is between 70 to 120 grams in a healthy person. It could be more if you're a serious athlete training at a high elite level, but you're not going to crash. You're not going to have any changes that you notice to a degree when you're resting that you actually feel particularly unwell or different. So when you go back to your normal levels after you stop supplementing, your body's going to be absolutely fine. And so it doesn't suppress, as I mentioned before. And most importantly, when the natural creatine supplementation is, when creatine supplementation is stopped, your body will go back to its natural synthesis within a few weeks, and your levels will also come back down from that highly saturated level that it will have been at while you were supplementing. The body does not become dependent on it, okay? So again, that's also another reason why creatine doesn't and will never fit into the enhancing drugs category, because it is fundamentally different from anabolic hormones like testosterone, for example, where external intake can actually cause prolonged or clinically significant suppression of your natural balance of those certain things. So this has all been backed up by decades of human research that shows that endogenous, which is a really nice word for natural creatine production, reliably rebounds actually after supplementation ends, which is a great thing, because if you do ever arrive at a moment in your life where you have to stop taking creatine, which can happen if you're in the military, for example, sometimes they will be put on certain programs or training periods or deployed and they might not have access to it. So that's an interesting example to give. You will not forget how to make your own natural creatine. So while there is this temporary feedback loop during supplementation, it's fully reversible and not a reason for athletes or anybody else to avoid supplementing with creatine actually. So specifically, there's like 4 really good studies that I can actually link in the description if anybody's interested. You're going to want to look at creatine's role in human performance, as well as some of these supplementation and effects on endogenous creatine synthesis. There's 4 studies that cover that, as well as a 2-part common questions and misconceptions review, which I would highly recommend anybody to take a look at. After that, I'm going to wrap up today. I'll keep it nice and short. My third topic is more so of a marketing prediction, as well as something that I really think is going to be part of the avenue that creatine is moving into for 2026, which the way that I like to put it is that it's moving into this resilience economy, whereby consumers are not just looking to feel stimulated and buzzed right now and for the rest of the day, but they're looking to invest in their long-term health, healthy aging, health span, resilience, longevity. Choose your buzzword. We're talking about the same thing. And so actually on Sunday, I also have a newsletter going out with 4 more sort of these predictive North Stars for creatine in 2026. But I wanted to mention a specific one today, which is this sort of forever muscle topic, which has been doing the rounds on the podcasts. All of those big mainstream podcasty doctors and physicians and clinicians have been talking about how muscle is potentially like a natural cure for aging. When you're thinking about, the chances of falling, the chances of having an accident, the chances of also not being able to move around independently as you do grow older and you have the privilege of aging as a human and reaching those later stages of life, creatine plays a huge role in that. And so creatine for aging support is just a huge topic. We've seen a really big shift, and in 2026 it's really not just about getting big, but it's also about not letting your body just shrivel and become small as you age, which includes frailty, bone being more prone to fractures, even just from a simple fall or stumble. So 2026, my wellness forecast is pretty much that the fastest growing category for creatine and demographic is probably going to be, besides women, I think adults over the age of 50, because this messaging around sarcopenia, which is the technical term for age-related muscle loss, is being recognized as a major health risk. And even me personally, numerous elderly people in my family, things really shifted for them after they fell and they were not stable enough to support themselves, and then they were in a fragile condition whereby that fall just really changed the trajectory of the next years of their life. And so creatine is now being paired with longevity because it helps with bone density and preventing falls, which is great news. But it also means that we need to start marketing towards those people, making them feel comfortable, making them feel like also their GP and their practitioner will be okay with them taking creatine, and that they can also validate the supplementation. And now I'm really seeing this like active aging in the marketing space for creatine become much more interesting, and it's kind of about rebranding creatine from performance to survival. And it sounds a little bit intense to put it that way, but when you're looking at creatine being able to play such a key role in this like forever muscle narrative that's becoming much more concrete and robust. If you're interested in a couple more of my thoughts on the other North Stars for creatine in 2026, they will be in our Generise newsletter. So that's just at generise.com, and you can sign up quite easily. I do a newsletter every week, or somebody from my team does a newsletter every week on a Sunday, which is great. So what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you buy capsules? Are you okay spending €50 a month on creatine? Have you ever had to take a break and felt the difference? And did you actually know that your body's natural creatine synthesis does not really get affected when you supplement, even up to high quantities for long periods of time, which is great. It's just another way that we can prove and see the evidence that creatine is safe to use as a supplement. And then last but not least, sarcopenia, forever muscle, thinking about those people that are in their 50s and 60s and 70s. Have you been able to get anybody in your family of that age to start taking creatine? So let me know your thoughts. I haven't had any comments yet, so I'd love to receive a comment if anybody's listening and made it this far. We're already going to be in February next week, which is exciting. I'm going to keep up my weekly schedule. Enjoy your weekends. Thanks for being here. And also feel free to let me know if there's anything that you would like me to discuss in some upcoming videos. Thanks for joining the Creatine Show week 3, and I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.